Okay, before I say anything else, I want to share some good news. I'm a grandpa. My daughter Maya had a baby. His name is Leo Joe, and he's doing really well. He was born last Sunday. But Leo's birth is not the only reason that it's cool that I've been invited to invite you all to join the movement on Labor Day weekend. I happen to have been part of the labor movement for about as long as I've been at Middle, so I'm going to talk a little about labor today. So the capital that Middle needs to survive and thrive is grown from the labor, much of it voluntary, emotional labor of thousands of people over decades. And to build the movement of love period, Middle needs both your capital and your emotional labor. So if you've been investing emotionally and spiritually in Middle, I invite you to go to middlechurch.org/join to become a member. And be sure to sign up for a new member class online. For the capital part, for me, I find it easiest to do an automatic monthly contribution. I know Middle benefits from this because they can plan, they know what's coming, but there are almost as many ways to give as there are Middle members, so just go to middlechurch.org/donate or Venmo. I first came across Middle Church as a member of the family theater company when I moved to the East Village in New York to be an actor and to make the revolution in 1983. The family was based at Middle Church and really had the run of the place at that time when it was a much smaller and less active congregation. The family did theater in the prisons and on the streets and offered free classes to the community. At that time, I wasn't attending church. I had real issues with organized religion and with the way God is enacted by people in the world. But 1983 is also when I met and became friends with Jerese Johnson. Completely outside the context of Middle, we were on a school bus on our way to DC for the 20th anniversary of Dr. King's March on Washington. And actually this August, we celebrated the 60th anniversary of that march, so it was 40 years ago. Wow, okay. So fast forward 3 years to 1986, and JJ casually mentions he's starting a gospel choir and what I like to sing. And I'm like, ooh, gospel, cool. Wait, that's church, right? Don't I have to believe in God? And he's like, oh, please, child, just come sing. So I did. I remember after our first concert in 1988, JJ told us, we're going to be around a long time and we're just going to get better and better and better. And lo and behold, 35 years later, here we are. Yeah, so little did any of us know that too many of those years would be without JJ. He, like so many thousands of the most creative, loving, beautiful people on the planet, and so many Middle members, succumbed to AIDS in 1995. We rehearsed in his apartment the night he died. Our last song together was Amazing Grace. Gordon called me about 3 o'clock that morning and said, delivered the terrible news. And he said, JJ wants the choir to keep going. So that's what we did. So experiencing the sound the choir has developed under the genius musical leadership of John Del Cueto and Dion McLean-Freeney. Yes, I mean that, genius. I don't say that lightly. You would never imagine the struggles, the hard emotional labor that we went through just to keep the choir going without JJ. Oh, we were so desperate for a director at one point, they even let me direct a song. But somehow God always made a way. She wasn't necessarily there right when we wanted her, but she was always there right on time. So anyways, after JJ brought me in the door through the gospel choir, Middle became my community. So we became Middle members in 1990, and that was 33 years ago. My children, Jesse and Maya, were both baptized and grew up here. And Middle remains my spiritual home, even as my work with the labor movement has taken me to many different states and all over the world, and as Natalie mentioned, our physical church has burned down. Middle has always been a place that said yes to me and yes to people being who they truly are and want to be. Some of the voluntary labor that Jackie and Gordon and Natalie and so many others have encouraged me to do, a part of being myself in this community, in this creative community, just real quickly, includes starting a choir prison ministry with Freeman Palmer, teaching the Artist's Way with Felicia Thomas, working with John, Jackie Freeman, and others to organize mission and music trips to New Orleans after Katrina, joining the very first Middle contingent at the Pride March and singing on the float ever since, and of course, at least 25 years of Frog and Toad. So this is a community that has said yes over and over and over to me, manifesting my truest and loveliest self through the emotional labor of love, period. And Middle will say yes to you too. My marriage gradually unraveled, and I realized that to be my best and truest self, I needed to start a new chapter. I worried a lot about whether people in this community would continue to love and accept me outside the context of that very long relationship. Last couple of years have been difficult for all of us with COVID and with our physical church burning down. And for me, with the dissolution of my marriage, I experienced a lot of pain and loneliness and a sort of loss of identity. But as Mary Jo's life has taken her to Atlanta and allowed her to be closer to our grandson, my life returned me to New York City and allowed me to be more fully present here at Middle. And I found a wonderful new love, Carla, who's from Mexico City and is watching online right now. Some of you have met her, others will meet her in the coming months and years, I hope. And through it all, I have found this community to be even sweeter and deeper than I knew, full of people who are helping me to do the work to keep growing into the person I need to be. So on that note, I want to say that all this love and acceptance comes with a challenge. The challenge for me and for people who share the privileges that I was born with is to do the emotional labor. First, to become aware of the toxicity of white racism, whiteness, and other ideologies of oppression that are rooted in identity. And second, to do the real work of solidarity, which means discarding those toxic ideologies of identity and working with others to transform them into the beloved community of love, period. And as Jackie has taught us, whiteness kills. It kills both people who are harmed by it and those who believe they benefit from it. And it's destroying creation. So this is real work. It hurts. It's like the labor of giving birth. It hurts. And while it's voluntary in the sense that we choose to do this labor, it's not really a choice. Not if we want our children and our grandchildren to live in a better world. And I know I do. And Middle is the place I want to do it. Thanks.